Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Grand Swiss, a very important chess tournament here in 2025. And in this video, I'll be sharing with you quite the matchup. Divya Deshmukh versus Gukesh Damaraju. A matchup of the two biggest stars of Indian chess. There's really no better way to put it. You've got the world champion versus the Women's World Cup winner, the recently minted Grandmaster, the Olympic champion as well. And also, Divya is just one of two women who is playing in the open section of the Grand Swiss. So obviously, there are two sections. The mistake is to say men and women. It's not that. It's open and women. And two are playing, the other being Alexandra Goryachkina, who also today won a nice game. Divya against Gukesh is the pairing. Divya is having a great tournament. She beat another 2600 rated player, Velimir Ivic, and Gukesh is having a tournament that he really would like to forget, but can't, because he has to finish it, and he's got to finish strong. So Gukesh has the white pieces. Now, going into this game, just purely on rating, purely on some experience, you're like, Gukesh is the favorite, but on form, anything can happen. It doesn't matter that Gukesh is a 300-point favorite. I think this is also the highest-rated player Divya has ever played. If it's not, if she somehow managed to play a classical game against one of the other top, 9 players in the world, that would be super impressive. So she opens with the Sicilian defense. We have a Rossalimo, and now not g6 or e6 or knight f6. She plays e5, a super sideline. Not to be confused with the super salad. So if you take this knight and then you take this pawn, you do win a pawn, but black will very quickly activate the queen when the knight moves, and you can't, take that. So castles. Now, here, the most common move by far is bishop d6. If you look at the opening database, it is bishop d6, and if it's not bishop d6, it's knight e7. So it's really confusing when Divya plays bishop e7. Obviously, some sort of prep. And now Gukesh on the fifth move thinks for 17 minutes. Now, obviously, this is nothing groundbreaking. Black just develops a piece. Black has a big hole on d5, which white is going to try to, bring the bishop, bring the knight, put something there. Rook e1, and now Divya plays knight d4. She gets out of the way, right? She attacks the bishop. Gukesh brings the bishop back. She trades the knight and volunteers herself for this slightly worse position, very slightly, where the d5 square is exploitable, but black is super solid and didn't put the bishop on the dumb d6 square. Okay? So now Gukesh goes to work. a4, h3. Let's show, the 2767 official rating. If we trade, then white is going to play bishop here, take the knight. In a dream situation, white goes here, takes the knight, plants the knight very firmly on d5, and has a very nice positional advantage. That actually also did happen in the game for Niemann. And I've got a whole nother fun assortment of games for you today. So, you're going to see this knight on d5 in that game. Now, queen d7, a5. And at this point, Gukesh is playing very well. Divya goes back to e8. And now, the way that white should proceed, according to Stockfish, a6, black goes b6, locks the position. And then white should play bishop b5 and just focus on very slow, methodical play on that side of the board. Gukesh blows up the position. He plays f4. Divya captures on f4. Bishop takes f4. Now, this trade improves white's chances on the king side for sure, and white has some pressure on the pawn, but it allows Divya a little bit of time to bring her pieces to the game. Gukesh continues to blow open the center of the board. We have takes, check. Divya trades all the pieces off, and we have this position. Now here, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, this is really unpleasant for black because white has a space advantage. This is going to be a long-term weakness. You're going to apply a lot of pressure over here, but she finds a nice move, bishop d5. Very nice idea. Keeping the tension, wanting to be taken so the rook takes, and Gukesh plays a6. Again, it just really feels like black is under substantial pressure. She plays b6, defending her position. She's down to 17 minutes. Gukesh plays knight d2. The correct retreat was knight g3 to try to reposition to go to f5. He went knight d2 to try to bring the knight this way, but it's actually knight g3 where he might have had some sort of advantage to then try to infiltrate on e7. He goes the wrong direction, and now it's rooks and knights. Now he has very limited resources to win the position, but still, rook e7, getting the knight to b5, even getting the knight to c6, all this feels like Black's position is on the verge of collapse, but the very nice rook d7. And suddenly it's like not very clear how to win. He goes knight e5, rook d6, and like his whole plan to get the knight in is just purely thwarted by the rook. So he begins, he repeats, she goes back, he brings the king. Now comes the black knight, and when the black knight is going to come, so is the other rook. Rook e5, here comes the rook. Now Divya's got all her pieces in the game. Gukesh had like a little bit of momentum there, but he's unable to capitalize king e2, and now it's actually black who can start playing this for a win, and I got news for you. If black was Magnus Carlsen, he would be trying to win this game. And Divya has to channel that. She has to channel not like, oh, I'm the 2470, I'm playing the world champ 2770, like I'm just going to hold the position. No, she plays for the win. She kicks out the knight, and rook d6, she goes for the pawn on a6. The thing is, when your opponent has lost 3 games in a row, it's all out there. I mean, it's really like playing poker, but they can see one of your cards. Not both, because I think both is too much of an advantage. But at least seeing one of your cards, like, they know the confidence is a little rattled, and at some moment you're going to get a chance. And guess who's getting a chance in this game? It's Divya Deshmukh. And if she plays rook g6 here, forces the pawn forward, and then brings the rook back, she's doing very well. Like, she's up a pawn and completely controlling this knight. She goes b4, though, allowing the knight back into the game and going for a little bit of solidity. But now Gukesh is very happy, because even though he's a pawn down, it really doesn't feel like it. And rook f2, king e3, rook d8, Gukesh goes for the pawns. We are about to get an extremely imbalanced king and pawn endgame. Both players make 40 moves, so they're about to get an hour extra on the clock. We have check here, and now you can make a draw. But instead of making a draw, this absolute madman Gukesh plays c3 and is simply going to lose a pawn. He's now volunteered himself to be down a pawn in this position. Like, the desperate search to win a game, to just not ever, and of course, like, if he repeated the position, that would be crazy, right, as the favorite of this matchup. Just purely, like, again, you kind of got to go with he's a slight favorite. Now I'm like, is he going to lose another game? There's no way he's going to get himself in trouble here, right? Because it feels like his king, his knight, everybody's really active. The black king is weak. These pawns there's an extra pawn, but it's not going to promote. Knight e3, and then right here, instead of taking on g7, he goes here. And Divya has a chance to capitalize. Now, it's a little mysterious. Instead of giving the check, the computer wants g6. It wants to leave the knight exactly where it is, kick the knight out this way, and then go here, kind of like reposition the king. It thinks g6, and then investing in the pawns is the right approach. Divya centralizes her knight instead and plays knight f4, giving up the pawn with a check, but basically guaranteeing that the game ends in a draw with rook d3, rook g3, losing a pawn, and now both sides are just down to one pawn, knight f5, and now a very nice idea here, just lose the knight. And that was just a very safe approach, because rook and knight versus just a rook is a draw. Rook and bishop versus rook is tricky. Losing rook and knight versus rook is really hard. Like, even the biggest, some of you watching, and some of the biggest, bozos in the world can draw this position. You could lose it. It does happen. But now, Divya is just going to play this position out. Gukesh, notice, is not taking her pawn. Some of you may be wondering, why is Gukesh not taking her pawn? He's trying to get to the 50 moves. He ends up taking the pawn, and now they play 20 more moves, and that's it. They didn't make it all the way to 50. It is impossible to force the king to the corner and then checkmate the king with a knight. It is just not possible. Okay, so a couple of things. Gukesh stops the bleeding. Not the rating points, but the results, obviously. He no longer has, he stops the losing streak, but he is down 20 rating points nearly, which is really crazy. Divya, meanwhile, is up some 18, 19 rating points. Unbelievable tournament for her. Probably the highest rated player she's ever played. Comfortable draw with the black pieces. She has 4 out of 8. This is the 8th round, not the 7th round. Yeah, that's just excellent. Excellent play from her. 50%. Really, really good. And I mean, I think it just further supports that some of the women of the world, like, you actually don't truly know their chess strength, because it's a totally different rating system where they're playing. It's like 24 and 2500. And it's kind of tough to break out of that if that's the only thing that you play. So Divya could be like a 2550, 2570 strength player. And she, hopefully continues to play more open events. But she is the women's world champ. Now, fantastic. Chess.com once again doing the thing where the games get spoiled. I don't know what this is, really. And I have complained about this in multiple recaps. Chess.com staff, if you are watching this, stop jumping ahead in the... I don't know what the events thing is doing. I don't know why it's doing that. It's so frustrating. It's probably going to happen again. So Firouzja Niemann was a very exciting matchup in the 8th round because, it's the two junior stars of chess. Hans played a Spanish, and then Alireza played this approach where you play a3 bishop and then knight like this, and the idea is, again, the d5 square, just like the Gukesh. And Divya opening in this position, right, the d5 square. So there's a trade, and then you establish a very nice position over here, and then here, Hans, instead of preserving his bishop, which would have been a totally reasonable move, took, and Alireza, played queen takes, and, just has a strong position. He has very nice opposite-colored bishop pressure. Black's pawn structure is a bit weak. Hans is going to get nothing in this game. I mean, Hans, this is pure playing for a draw. And I'm not insulting him. Like, you cannot win this position with Black. It is impossible. Unless Alireza, I don't know, does something completely insane. Hans still went for some play, liberated his king, played f5. But Alireza was right there the whole time. Very nice idea from Hans to sacrifice the pawn to activate his bishop. Maybe there was some chance here, like... no, I don't think so. I think this was just all very good from Hans. He played very, very intelligently, gave up a pawn. Opposite colored bishops locked out the white bishop from the position. And even though Alireza weakened his king, just b4, clean move, trading off the position. Hans played b4 and offered a draw. And Alireza was like, yep, sounds good. So, good neutralizing Alireza by Hans Niemann. I mean, Alireza is a dangerous player. Very dangerous with white. I think he just had back-to-back white games. So his reward is playing Nihal Sarin with Black, who drew against Blue Bomb. Now, some other games, Mishra, Abdusattorov. Again, Mishra, unbelievable tournament so far. Really exceptional from him. Karo Khan from Abdusattorov, and a Tartakover variation. All right, now we're going to get a main line. And Muzychuk is going to play this move h5. It's a weird move, but the idea is to go h4. Kind of pressure white's kingside because the knight is not on the f3 square. It used to be sort of accepted that castling long is a nice approach here, but actually people have started castling this way, and then just playing, as you're about to see, bishop d2, knight f8, rook e1, just bringing all the pieces to this side of the board, but Black is very happy here. Muzychuk showing high opening understanding. f4 is the move that Abhimanyu goes for, queen d6, you're going to go b6, maybe g6, and you're going to have likely no problems. Or you're going to put your knight on e6, and there might be problems if you don't play this correctly, because Abhimanyu generates some very nice initiative here, pushes the queen back, plays f5, and it's looking very unpleasant if you take your king is wide open, but you have to take knight g5 is given a double question mark blunder from the computer, because after takes, pawn takes g6 is apparently very strong, but the computer just says f6, and it's not afraid. But the more it thinks, the more afraid it gets. Knight d4 to try to exploit the light squares is the approach. Knight d4, queen c4, and then rook back to f1. Should Black try to generate some counterplay with pawn here? So obviously the bishops are pointing in this direction. The queen is coming into e5. So it wants knight d4, and then if queen e5, it's just totally unafraid of mate. Just thinks that you just move, you survive. And you're not going to lose the game. However, Abhimanyu plays check first, and the difference now is knight d4 is impossible because you would be losing the pawn on c5. And since it is impossible, now we're just going to get a super sharp position where white is no longer any better. So we have rook to d8, queen e5, and if anybody's better, it's the player with the black pieces whose attack actually is very powerful. Bishop back to c8, also apparently a mistake. Rook a b8 was required to put some pressure on the queen side. Very, very mysterious position, but once the queens start coming off, and so do the other pieces, double rook sack, by the way, you know, a little bit fancy, nothing crazy. Rook d1, rook and bishop endgame, rook endgame, and this rook endgame is simply a draw. Both guys trade off. White is a pawn up, but he can't move. He's going to take on c6. Nice idea there. These pawns liquidate. This pawn's not going anywhere. Very hard-fought, very complicated game that for the purposes of a recap is being oversimplified. You would need to get into the head-spinning complications of the middle game in a slightly longer video. This looks like there's a runaway pawn, by the way, but there isn't. Rook back. Rook back. King is not going to get there before my king. So the game is a draw. King's off the board. And Mishra is also up 27 rating points. 27 freaking rating points. Unbelievable. Dude is on fire. He's on +3, which means he has no defeats and he has 3 wins. Like, dude is a locomotive in this tournament, just absolutely crushing. And he's in the running to win the tournament. He is straight up in the running with 3 rounds to go to qualify to the candidates. Like, that is wild stuff. Now I got more games for you. Vincent Keymer versus Vidit Gujarati. Both these guys are having a late tournament surge. But this game I'm actually not going to really show much of. It was a Rue Lopez. It was a complex game. Opposite colored bishops lead to very dynamic positions. They could lead to attacking positions as well. Nice move by Vidit. You can't take. It's not quite a rook sacrifice. You know, shockingly, Vincent Keymer did not blunder checkmate. He played very intelligently. He got an advantage of bishop versus knight. He's going to trade some pieces here, and he's going to try to put some pressure in the endgame. But Vidit, a very good player, and even with a minute on the clock, generates amazing counterplay here. Look at this. Sacrificing his h-pawn, trading into an endgame where we have king and pawn, and we have this. So everything that just happened, everything that, like, queens were traded, rooks get traded, Vidit correctly gets here, and now has to hold this position. The problem with king and pawn endgames is they're very weird, and sometimes you lose them literally out of nowhere. And Vidit here spends the longest of this entire game that he spent on a move. He thinks for 28 minutes, and he loses the game. Like, in a king and pawn endgame, you don't draw or have a slightly better position or slightly worse. Like, some mistakes straight up lose. And this move is losing because it's not a pass-back move. White now goes c4, and black doesn't have a move. Black can now no longer play b5, so you don't have a move. If you go g4, I go g3, and then what's going to happen is I'm going to kick your king back and go for either that pawn or this side of the board. I'm either going to get to play d4. So, for example, g4, g3 here, d4 takes, right? And now I'm going to shoulder you and win this pawn. c5, king d5, it doesn't matter. Like, you go king g5, I go king e5. Here, c5, here. You're going to lose the pawn and you're going to lose the game. So Vidit plays c6, and I guess he overlooked c4 or he miscalculated. What he should have done is go king d5. And the point is now, white doesn't have, you know, now, for example, c3, king e5, king f3, king f5, g3. Again, I'm looking for this so that I could maybe go here. Even now, you can play c6. Why? Because I went c3. Now, if I walk my king there, king g4, king f2, I might even go to h3, by the way. I might be bothering you. So these endgames can be analyzed for hours, but c6, c4, black loses on the spot. Black is out of moves. Vidit ended up going here, king f3, d4. You know, again, if g4, g3, that would have been possible. King f6, king e4, and now g3. And the point is very straightforward. If you go here, I go g4. Now we have this position, except I got a free move, right? Look, it's as if I got to go here and another move, and now d4. Takes. Vidit must have thought this position was a draw. It's not. It's not. Why is this position not a draw? c5. You don't have a move now. If you go king d7, I take. It looks like you're kicking me out. You're not. I have an outside pass pawn. Outside pass pawn is extremely dangerous in king and pawn endgames. You simply lose the game. a5 here, king c5 here, and I'm gonna win. You can't. I'm too fast. I'm too fast. So completely unbelievable. This pawn trade happens, and this is losing for black. This is the wrong pawn. It's only a draw if it's a bishop's pawn or a rook's pawn, and obviously depends on the king's position, but forces the king forward, and Vidit resigns. Nuts. Vidit and Vincent were both catching up to first place, and now only Vincent goes ahead. I mean, losing in the 8th, 9th, 10th round of this tournament is absolutely brutal. This game was a game where the players should be drug tested after the game, not because they played perfectly, but they played like, I don't know. They went to eat some herbal leaves in the woods of Samarkand, Uzbekistan, and it gave them a head rush. Okay. Now again, Rapport plays chess like a mid 20th century. Rapport needed to grow up playing chess in the 50s and 60s. 1950s and 60s, when you could blow cigars in your opponent's face. Like, Rapport plays a reverse Benoni in this game. Check this out. So, Prague doesn't take back. Attacks the knight. Knight goes here. Rapport takes on d4. Sorry, Prague takes on d4. Rapport takes here. Sorry, he's trying to take here. Knight e4. And then Rapport is just like, yo, rook e5, queen d6. And dude straight up just sacks the bishop, the rook for the bishop. Just gives it away. To take this pawn, put the queen on a4 check. By the way, Rapport's not thinking. This is all his preparation. King goes here. Knight c3. So white has a bishop, as you can see, and 2 extra pawns. White has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Black has 5 pawns. And that's the material balance. Now, Prague has to figure out this position down 40 minutes on the clock. He does. He plays h5. Like I said, both guys should be drug tested. Like this is ridiculous stuff. Bishop e4 attacks the knight. Now, do you move the knight or do you defend it? He defends it. Best move, by the way. Giving up this whole side of the board. He defends the pawn. Queen a7 might have been slightly better. d3 is fine. Knight goes to d6, looking to take the bishop. We bring the bishop back. Again, the best move. Yep. And now this is the best move. He plays it. Now this is the best move. He plays it. Now this is the best move. He plays it. So now the king and the bishop are completely locked down. Queen a7. You're going to trade. Try to trade the queens. If you trade the queens with white, you're probably winning, by the way, because you have so many extra pawns. So we don't let you trade the queen. We go rook h4. You got to go f3. He plays it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you the best and literally only move in the position for black not to be lost on the spot, which Prague plays after 13 minutes of thought. Like, these games don't get as much credit, okay? Prague plays knight b7. There should be someone waiting with a cup that he can pee in at the end of the playing hall. Knight to b7. This is brilliant. He's trying to play bishop c5. And if you take the knight, I don't care. I still get to play bishop c5. And by the way, then I win. I win because you get mated, because I take the bishop. So now white only has one move. You have to prevent bishop c5 at all costs. Knight e4. The knight move allows black to play yet another move. Rook d3! Now, it looks like a brilliant move. It's not because you're sacrificing the rook. It's because the knight is still hanging. Now, if I take here, rook d1, and you get absolutely obliterated on the first rank. Just everything gets bulldozed. Like a wood chipper. Instead, the best move is queen f2, which Rapport correctly plays. He pumps the brakes. He pumps the brakes. He is now up. How much time he's up? 70 plus minutes. 75 to be exact. Dude is up an hour and 15 minutes on the clock. Prague plays queen d1, queen e2, and simply moves the rook back. He moves the rook back from getting taken. And if you take, I go here. Rapport goes here, here. And now the king escapes. And now the knight re-enters the game. And knight c3. White is slightly better, but knight to d3 check, played with 10 seconds on the clock. Prague is finding every move. Takes. Knight d5, bishop d6. Bishop g5 is a mistake. Rapport needed to go king e2 to continue the pressure a little bit, kick out the rook, and then play that position. Instead, he goes here. Prague runs the rook away, and now we go king e2. The difference now is that I have various attacks on this bishop, like with f6. Like, this bishop might have been better going on a3, and yeah, now you have to waste a move. Like, now the bishop, could have, but we get to a similar position. Prague sags back. h2 keeps the pawn here, and just like the Abimanyu Nodrbek game, the players make a draw. Prague survived the last 10 moves of this game with like three minutes on the clock. I mean, like, to find all of this, a game ends in a draw. It's a draw, and I don't show every draw because some draws are quite boring, but this one was anything but boring, okay? This was a crazy game. Now, check this out. I got some more games. Jordan Van Foreest versus Shahryar Mamedyarov. We have another fried liver attempt. Yesterday we had Queen F3 from Alireza. It's not what we get in this game. Knight C3, I think, is a move that Hikaru has played, and then Black will play Knight F4 and try to take the bishop. That's not what happens in this game. He plays Knight F4 now, but now we have a slightly better version of this. This is going to be a very messy and complex game. He grabs the bishop and plays F5, looking for this. Jordan plays this move. Jordan is a player that is extremely good with initiative and momentum, and that's what he gets granted with this G4. Pawn takes, Knight G5, going for E6, going for E4, going for H7, and trying to take the pawn back, defended by the bishop. And Jordan just gets a great position. Total positional crush. Weakness, weakness. Black just doesn't have enough here. And, you know, you very quickly can generate a massive attack out of nowhere, and that's what he does. I mean, this is not what you want in a fried liver type of position. When you play a position where your pawn structure looks like this, just looks like, you know, random pawns set up on a board, you have to have good piece coordination. Black does not have good piece coordination. Because you don't have good piece coordination or good pawn coordination, you have no coordination. Shocking. And, yeah, my guy Jordan just completely shreds this knight here, doesn't let it re-enter the game, walks the king away from danger. He misses a nice... I mean, he could have just taken the pawn, but okay, rook h5 is fine. And he wins a pawn, and ultimately, he's just going to be up a pawn in a rook endgame. And it takes a little bit of converting, a little bit of technique, but as long as he doesn't completely explode, he should do it. And he does. Just 2 pawns up. King gonna walk in, a4, a5, b4. Shah could defend this for another 40 moves. He just resigns. He just resigns, and Jordan Van Foreest, out of nowhere, +3 as well. 5.5 points, very close to first place. Good performance. And he has to play Anish Giri in the 9th round. That's quite a pairing. Anish Giri. The Dutch battle. One quick check-in. By the way, yesterday I said the only way to get a shakeup on the women's side was if Bibisara Asobayeva from Kazakhstan manages to beat Vaishali. Absolutely nobody can beat Vaishali in this tournament. So they had to send in the warrior from Kazakhstan, Bibisara herself. And this was a perfect way to play against Vaishali's style. Make Vaishali play like a Queen's Indian type of setup. This is like a Bogo Indian, Queen's Indian type of position. But here, Black can't attack. The only way that Black can attack here is with F5. Vaishali very good with the initiative, but Bibisara plays a very patient game. Getting very positional, like very symmetrical type of dry structure. And Rook D8 is a tactical move, which just allows White to play Knight takes E5. I don't know what if Vaishali missed Knight E5 simply. I think she did. Like, just you can take, and maybe here she thought that she had like Queen C1, but, or I don't know, Rook D3, but the Knight defends the Queen, and there's all the tactics work. And yeah, I mean, maybe Black could go E4, but again, she just pressured, and Vaishali blundered inevitably under some time trouble. Bibisara just has to not blunder herself. She's not going to. There's pins everywhere, but the knight is going to be lost. Very nice tactical sequence. Everything is defended. You take, if takes, I takes, defended. And yeah, Bibisara showed up and won with 97% accuracy against Vaishali to take the lead in the women's side. You can't ask for a more clutch performance. On board 2, in the women's side, it was Lagno beating Muzychuk, which is, again, also a huge matchup. And this one was also a game. This was a game White went 98%. So Asobayeva and Lagno just popping off. This was a very different type of game. A lot of imbalance, totally not positional. Checkmates were threatened. You know, still elements, of course, of positional chess, but very dynamic game with the queen side being ripped open, and then the bishop suffering, and this move f6 really just a anti-positional move. Allowing this knight, obviously, Black thought that she was going to kick it out. Rook d5, yeah, Lagno just completely did not look back. Queen here, all sorts of nastiness. Knight g6, bishop f5. And, yeah, look, I mean, and Muzychuk resigns because there's just mate on the horizon. And a bludgeoning, like, Lagno has just been a monster. 5 wins, 3 draws. I mean, you play, and now she has to play Bibisara in the next round, and on the women's side, Lagno's winning the tournament. She has 6.5. Vaishali and Yushin Song down with 6 points. One more bonus game for you. Erdogmus Yas, my boy, Yas. Yeah, he's playing Levan Aronian, who's recently been playing a lot of French defense. And I'm just gonna click through this position. You know, Levon, very dynamic player, very experienced player. Erdogmus, obviously super prodigy, genius. Just generating a kingside attack against the legend. Super messy game, which gets into an endgame. And how about this for style points? You ready for this move? My guy. Sacrificing the rook. You cannot take it because rook c8 is just mate. Rook f8 or rook h8 both are mate, which means this pawn is there to be taken. He plays this move in 2 seconds, by the way. So, Levon here, I don't really know what was missed. Like, maybe he shouldn't have taken this pawn and allowed the rook, but really, I don't know. And this is just amazing. And this is the type of move that tilts you completely. e5, rook e5, and just getting to the time control, trying to take the pawn, which he does. Now that rook is free. We're just going to keep on working on it. And he's just up rook for knight. You just got to preserve some pawns, and he will preserve some pawns. Yaz Khan just beat Levan Aronian, beating a 2,700 rated player. 2,700 rated player. Already this kid played the game of the tournament. He now has 5 points. Let's go check out on the standings. Bluebaum and Sarin still lead. All the other top boards were draws. Now they can't play each other. So tomorrow we have Sarin with white versus Firouzja, who's got 5.5. Nojabek Bluebaum. Nojabek's going to try to win and get first place. And then we have the Dutch playing against each other, and we have Parham versus Keymer. And Hans Niemann on board 5 probably, yeah, against Mishra. That's, by the way, going to be a matchup in the US Championship coming up. So super exciting. Fun fact, I'm pretty sure Hans Niemann beat Mishra to get his 3rd GM norm. I repeat, I'm pretty sure in Charlotte, North Carolina, Hans Niemann beat Abhimanyu Mishra to get his 3rd GM norm. Now they are 2,700 level players playing in the Grand Swiss to make the candidates. That was 4 years ago. 4 years! 4 or maybe 5, but I think it was 4 years ago in 2021. Could have been 2020. Nuts. So there you go, folks. That's all I have for you today. You know the drill already. Get out of here.